Welcome back into the Gridiron segment, everybody. My name is Kyle. I am joined, as always, by Justin. We are going to be talking a little bit of AFC North football. We're starting our little summer series of going division by division, breaking down each team and what they did in the offseason and just whether or not we think they got better. We're not quite doing record predictions yet. We're pretty much just going to do one episode and steamroll a bunch of record predictions all at once, right leading up to preseason. So be on the lookout for that. But for right now, we get to talk about each team a little bit in depth. It's not something we get to do very often, especially when the season gets going, because we're focused on a lot of the primetime games and a lot of the major storylines leading into, trade deadline, playoff pushes, what have you. So this is like the best time because your favorite team is going to be talked about within the next 8 weeks here on the House Called Gridiron segment. Before we get into any of that, I've got to shout out our sponsor at Vivid Seats. They are the best ticket buying platform on the market. I'm talking about guaranteed seats, ticket insurance, ridiculously good prices, and if you use the link in our description, you're saving yourself even more money. They have more than just sporting events. You can get tickets for concerts, comedy, any kind of live event. Vivid Seats has got you covered. Thank you to Vivid Seats for sponsoring this episode. Now let's get right into it. We have got 4 teams that we need to talk about in the AFC North. We're going to be talking about them in kind of reverse order at this point, from worst to first, starting with the Cleveland Browns, who came in 4th place in the AFC North with a staggeringly bad 3-14 record. Truthfully, I'm surprised they got those 3 wins. It was a lost season going into the season, in my opinion, just because I had no faith in Deshaun Watson. That panned out to be true, and he has another Achilles injury that's taking him completely out of the 2025 season. We'll get into what they did to replace that. Justin, what are your immediate thoughts about what happened to the Browns in 2024? It just felt like nothing could go right.
As somebody who watched the Cleveland Browns in week 2 of last year, because they faced my Giants, and seeing literally everything that could go wrong, Deshaun Watson was not the Deshaun Watson of Houston. That Deshaun Watson is long gone. Now came somebody who was essentially scared to step up in the pocket, essentially scared to push the ball down the field, was really timid, made a lot of errors, both in the mental game and just with his throws. And that just seemed to spiral everything else down. Like, you had no quarterback, and once you have no quarterback on your team, that's when shit really hits the fan, essentially. So you had all these losses. You've had the drama off the field with Myles Garrett, which apparently all you had to do was just throw a bunch of money at him.
Back up the Brinks truck. That'll make anybody
That'll solve
happy.
Everything.
Come on.
The thing is, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme as we go through the rest of the AFC North, in my opinion, I don't think they really did much that will get them out of the hole that they're already in. Because I know you said we're going to talk about this later on, but who's throwing you the ball? There's 5 different quarterbacks on this team, and the best one out of them is pushing 40, if not already 40.
I'll tell you what, they're not going to be able to, no one's going to be able to run the ball against them. No one's going to be able to run the ball against them, so they have that going.
No one's going to be able to run the ball against them, but guess what? They also can't throw the ball themselves, or they can run it, maybe.
They cannot. And also, I'm not entirely confident in their pass catchers. Let's get into some of the nitty-gritty. I want to start with the players that were lost, and then we'll get into free agent signings, any trades that happened, and draft. We're basically going to be going like, what did they lose? What did they keep? What did they add? Starting off with wide receiver Elijah Moore. He had 75% of the snap count. He ended up in Buffalo. I understand getting the value of a first-round pick next year, especially if you think that Jacksonville is not going to be good. That's a big gamble, though, that Cleveland is taking because they have shown an ability to win games in a relatively weaker AFC South division. And losing out on a talent like Travis Hunter, on top of the fact that Elijah Moore is out the door, I don't love the wide receiver room. Also did not retain Rodney McLeod. He's still unsigned as a safety. Jermaine Ifedi at offensive tackle, still unsigned as well. He had 45% of the snaps. The big one that breaks my heart is Jameis Winston being gone. I love Jameis Winston football. Everyone should. It's fantastic. And you're going to love Jameis Winston football for your Giants. I'll tell you that much, Justin. The other big one, Nick Chubb, still unsigned, coming off of that very bad leg injury. Only had 20% of the snaps last year, so like, it's a loss, yes, but I think in the long run, as weird as it sounds, it's going to end up being addition by subtraction, because they weren't going to get anywhere near the level of play out of Nick that he had been producing in the past. Ultimately, there's not like a huge crippling loss here in free agency to me. There wasn't really that much great stuff to begin with. Justin, what do you think about their losses?
You kind of just took the words right out of my mouth. Like, I'm reading this list and I'm like, apart from Nick Chubb, who had injury problems, and Jameis Winston, because now we know the quarterback situation in Cleveland, you really didn't lose much. Like, I'm not looking at this list and I'm like, oh my God, they should have resigned him. They shouldn't have, gotten rid of him. No, Jedrick Wills did not play up to his draft status. No. Jordan Atkins, Jermaine Ifedi, Rodney McLeod, getting up there in age, I believe, and Elijah Moore.
He's all right.
You could do better. Like,
way better.
You could do better. So
the fact that you have a wide receiver 3 like gadget guy at 3/4 of the snap count for your offensive snaps is like, that's a little much, and that really is telling of the lack of talent that they have at wide receiver.
Outside of Jerry Jeudy. Outside of Jerry Jeudy, you have but even a crash out, and then who knows?
With Jerry Jeudy, I think that there's so much credit that we'll give him for what he did in college. And I think we are at the point with Jerry Jeudy that we need to get to the point with Jerry Jeudy where we have gotten to with Nelson Aguilar, where it's like, all right, the dream's over. It's probably not going to happen, and that is okay. I don't know why I'm burying Jerry Jeudy. Let's talk about the players that got re-signed. None more impactful than Myles Garrett. $40 million a year average. Like, you said it. They backed up the Brinks truck, and that solves all problems. Also, we're able to retain Jack Conklin on the offensive line. He had 69% of the snaps. Nice. $9 million a year average. Retained Devin Bush at the linebacker position, retaining Jerome Ford at the running back position. I like the Jerome Ford retention just because I'm like, he was solid for y'all when Nick Chubb was not available, and I think that he is a great person to have in a committee running back room. Give me your thoughts on the re-signings for Cleveland.
So this is the part where I'm just like, okay, I like it. Myles Garrett, given. He's arguably the best defensive player active in the NFL right now. There's like 1-2 punch between him and TJ Watt, but I give it to Myles. I like Jack Conklin. He's only 30 years old as an offensive tackle, and you only got him for $9 million a year. There's left tackles and offensive tackles in general that are making like 15, 20 plus million a year. So I think it's a good financial move on their part. Devin Bush, I was so high on him when he was first drafted, but it just seems to be disappointing like now based on production. Jerome Ford, I definitely like him, especially when we go into the draft picks in Cleveland. So I think their running game is going to be fine.
Their running game is going to be their running game is going to be just fine. Let's talk a little bit about the free agents that they brought in. Of course, you got Joe Flacco coming in that quarterback room. They went out and traded for Kenny Pickett as well. That Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett. The interesting one to me is bringing in Tevin Jenkins in the offensive guard spot. I'm very familiar with that player. He is solid. I think he's like a serviceable starter on your offensive line. Not much more than that. His injury history has like really held him back from being a true like Pro Bowl type lineman. It'll be interesting to see what he ends up, slotting in as for the Browns. I don't think that he can really play tackle in any way, shape, or form. He was drafted as a tackle, and thank God he never did it because he was never going to be able to. The quarterbacks and the bringing in of Jerome Baker, I like that a lot. I like bringing in Jerome Baker from Tennessee in the linebackers position, especially because, like you were saying, Devin Bush hasn't necessarily lived up to the expectations. Jerome Baker is like multiple 100 tackle seasons. He's a really just solid presence in the run stopping game, which is adding on to their first round pick that we'll get into. And that's part of the reason that I say I don't think that anyone's running the ball on Cleveland. Same with Rayshon Jenkins, the safety that they got. That's another great run-stopping addition. Seems like they had a plan to never have anyone run the ball on them again, which I could see it. Letting Miles get loose on those, third and longs is never a bad idea, especially because if you can flip the field, your shit-ass offense doesn't have as far to go to put points on the board. Before we get into any of the draft or coaching staff changes, thoughts on the free agent movement as a whole for Cleveland?
As a whole, when it comes to Cleveland, they went into free agency essentially with one goal, and that's essentially to slow down Baltimore, because Baltimore is the quintessential rushing team in that division. You have Cincinnati, but Cincinnati is more of a pass-first offense. You have Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's kind of mixed. They are very strong on the run, but I think if you're really like trying to pinpoint who were they trying to stop, it was Baltimore. And that two-headed monster they have between Jackson and Henry. But I'll tell you, my favorite signing out of all this is Jerome Baker. And it's for one main reason. And you have it here because we do have notes on this. We don't completely go off the cuff. You have one of the notes here saying that he's effective as a pass rusher, but plays better inside. And unfortunately, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is not going to be playing this season. He sustained a neck injury last year. It seems to still be bothering him to the point that they put him on the PUP list. So I could see Jerome Baker manning the middle of that defense and just playing fast, playing free. And then when we get into the draft picks, you're going to see exactly why he can play free.
Oh, let's get into those draft picks because I do like this. I like this draft class. Right off the bat, defensive tackle Mason Graham, Michigan. I was furious because I wanted my Chicago Bears to draft Mason Graham. It was a pipe dream to think that he would fall to 10, but damn, Cleveland is getting an unbelievable player in Mason Graham. Then they go out and get Carson Schwarzenegger out of UCLA, the linebacker. Like you were saying, that whole setup, that front seven is going to be a really fun watch, despite the fact that everything else about Cleveland Browns football sucks. Then they got Quinshon Judkins, and we were hinting at this with the Jerome Ford re-signing. The Quinshon Judkins Jerome Ford combination is going to be, I think, a lovely surprise for Cleveland fans that were just distraught at the loss of Nick Chubb, because the past few years of Browns football has been defined by that running back room and Nick Chubb specifically. Yeah, they had Kareem Hunt as a complement for a few years there, but like Nick Chubb was the lifeblood of that offense. I think they're getting a fucking unbelievable player in Judkins out of Ohio State. He is tough. He is a home run hitter, and pairing him with Jerome Ford is fantastic because you don't have to overload Judkins because it's not something he's necessarily used to, splitting that time with Travion Henderson at Ohio State. Let's keep on moving. Tight end Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green was taken, and now we've got to talk about the fun part, the quarterbacks. Dylan Gabriel, taken in the third round with the 94th pick out of Oregon. Sandwiched between two quarterbacks is another running back, Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. Like that pick too. Then they take Shedeur. And the 5 quarterback room, it's 5, right, at this point?
Yeah, it's 5.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm pretty sure. Hold on.
5 quarterback room.
I have their depth chart right here. So, yeah, Deshaun, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. And the crazy thing is, if you look at ESPN's depth chart, Shedeur Sanders is not even listed. He's QB5 according to them.
That's wild. I keep on hearing different things. One day I'm hearing that, Dylan Gabriel's getting throwing pick sixes and 7-on-7s. The next day I'm hearing that, Shedeur is getting completely outplayed by Dylan Gabriel. So I'm really interested to see what happens there. I have no clue where it's going to end up landing because we haven't really opened up training camp to its full extent at this point. That's the other thing that's going to be kind of a drawback to this series being so drawn out, is that we are starting with this division very early on, so there's possibility for some developments that we don't know about. If you're watching this and Shedeur Sanders has been named the starting quarterback before preseason, doubt it. But if that's the case, I'm sorry.
I would not want to be a rookie signal caller behind that offensive line at all, especially knowing you have Baltimore's defense and Pittsburgh's defense twice a year.
Oh my God, yeah. Not good. Not good. At least they get the Charmin Ultra Soft Cincinnati defense to go up against.
Which I have some comments about Cincinnati, how they handle their defense. So we'll save that for what we talk about.
It's bad. I was looking.
It's horrible.
When I was going through and doing some of the notes for Cincinnati, I was like, oh no, this is bad. Before we get to any of that, let's talk coaching changes for the Browns, and then we'll get out of here with, do we think they got any better? Offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey got fired. He's now in Dallas as pass game specialist. We got offensive line coach Andy Dickerson got fired. He is in Vegas as the assistant offensive line coach. Mike Bloomgren is stepping in to replace as the O-line coach. Then you had Tommy Rees promoted to offensive coordinator. Former quarterback out of Notre Dame. Let's go. Very young. He has been climbing coaching ranks very quickly. Kevin Stefanski is still going to be calling plays. Kevin Stefanski is going to call the offensive play. That's interesting to me because it didn't go very well. So I don't know. I think that there's always the thought of, okay, well, if I can pass along the blame partway through the season and we still suck, then I have less of a risk getting fired. Either way, I don't think Stefanski is going to stay the coach of the Browns. Any thoughts on the coaching changes before we get to our little did the team get better?
I'm glad you said that because I think this is Stefanski's last year in Cleveland. I think he took way too long trying to find the quarterback. I feel like even though ownership probably twisted his arm with the whole Deshaun Watson thing, it just never worked out. His offense, which is supposed to be his specialty, is just not panning out. No. And I don't think you're going to want to keep him here for another 1 to 2 years trying to develop one of these 2 quarterbacks that he drafted and not knowing what's going where, even though I think arm pulling was, kind of the thing that got the second quarterback. But I just don't see it. Also, personal opinion, I just don't like the idea of head coaches calling plays. Just because when you're the head coach, your job is to oversee everything. If you're focused on calling the plays on one side of the ball, that's attention that you're taking away from the other side of the ball that you're expected to actually keep an eye on. So it's happening with my Giants too. So I'm noticing it over and over.
Be interesting to see if Ben Johnson is how long he calls plays from the Bears, because that's the plan right now.
I'm taking the left tackle gets a touchdown for the Bears.
But no, not the left tackle. Darnell Wright is going to have 1 touchdown in the 2025 season. I don't care what fucking bookie you have to talk to. Bet 1 touchdown for Darnell Wright for the 2025 season, because it will happen. I guarantee it.
I got a bookie for that, but you know what? They're not paying us, so I'm not sponsoring it. I'm not shouting them out.
I love it. Simple question. Did the Browns get better?
No, they did not. At the very best, they stood the same, which is 3 wins they got? Yeah.
They got 3 wins.
At the very best, they got 3 wins. They'll be right back at it, picking top 3 again this year. Stefanski will be fired. There'll be a new head coach on the team. And that new head coach has to balance, do I want to get my quarterback or do I want to run it with one of these 2 quarterbacks? And then ownership is going to do what they do and say, nope, you need to use this quarterback because that's who we drafted and that's going to be our guy. I am foretelling it, and we will just continue to add to the list of the graveyard that is Cleveland Brown quarterbacks.
The crap that my Bears get needs to be levied against the Browns. It's not fair. We are just acting like Jay Cutler never existed, and that is unfair to smoking Jay Cutler. But back to Cleveland.
Listen, I'm mad that y'all had Jay Cutler and still didn't have a 4,000-yard passer.
Listen, Jay Cutler had I'm quoting Tyson Bagent. If Jay Cutler had a dome, he would have thrown for 4,000. But with the Browns, they got a bit younger. They spent a lot of money. No, they did not get better. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't think that this is more than a 5-win team at best. They're gonna be picking at the top of the draft, and this time I don't think they should trade out. I think that if there's a quarterback there, they need to take it, and they can't have Kevin Stefanski screw this up again. So I can't wait to see who the coach of the 2026 Cleveland Browns is. Let's talk about the Bengals. Ended up in 3rd place, 9-8. Did not squeak into the playoffs despite a, kind of half joking push towards the end where we were all like, these are the specific things that would have to happen, and this team loses, Miami has to lose, and and it's like, okay, at what point are we just going to be like, if the Bengals get into the playoffs, it'll be a freaking miracle? Because I feel like media completely jinxed them out of that with the amount of pressure that was put on all the specific scenarios for them to make it.
All the statisticians that were up half the night.
Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. But my God, the 2024 Bengals were such a letdown for me, because at first it felt like, okay, same old Bengals, slow start, this, that, and the other. And then I'm like, this isn't barely even a playoff team. They're getting their ass kicked. And Joe Burrow is trying to do everything he can to make sure that his team stays in the game, because he's that type of, top quarterback who can will his team to wins. And you saw that down the stretch. He just straight up said, whatever, you're going to put up 40 points, I'll put up 41 points. To hell with it. Holy shit. The defense was awful. Like, singularly bad. I can't even stress. Like, it was to the point where you didn't even want to watch the Bengals play, despite how good the offense is, despite how exciting Jamar Chase is, how fun it is to watch T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow is so awesome, and he's calm and collected, and he's calling out all of these reads and blitzes that he sees. It's like, great. That defense is a joke. That defense is pathetic, and it's honestly frustrating to watch because of the greatness on the other side of the ball that's happening, how badly they're screwing it up. Justin, what were your thoughts about 2024 Bengals?
Here's the problem. Had we never seen the NFL season last year, had I told you Joe Burrow threw for 4,918 yards, that Chase Brown, a fifth round running back, almost went for 1,000 yards rushing, that Jamar Chase went for 1,700 yards receiving, you would think that they made the Super Bowl, if not won it, based on this offense. But no, the defense completely let this team down. And that is the problem. I'm going to show you some points, some stats here from last season. Total points per game. Cincinnati, 27.8. Opponents, 25.5. You're almost neck and neck with each other. You should not be doing this. Total touchdowns. Cincinnati's offense, 55 total touchdowns. Their opponents, 52. Right there with them. Like, just pick a stat and it's right there for the taking. It's just nuts the way that the offense clicked so much. Had a dang near historic run on that side of the ball. But at the same time, their defense was historically bad. On top of that, you had... Wait, I need to see. I need to see what Trey did last year, because we're going to get into that whole debacle, too.
Oh, Trey had 17 and a half sacks. 17 and a half sacks. He was the league leader.
17 and a half sacks is insane.
They had the league leader in, I believe, passing yards. I think
passing yards,
receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, catches, and sacks.
And they did not make it to the playoffs.
They didn't deserve to get into the playoffs.
And
that's the insane part.
It's mind-boggling, and we're gonna get into all of it, but I don't think they did anything really to improve that.
They didn't. Like, they have shown repeatedly that they have lucked into a lot of great players, but they are completely incompetent at managing a roster that they already have. And let's get into that. Let's talk about free agency losses that happened. Right off the bat, interior offensive line, Alex Kappa, 99.6% snap count. He's gone. He's in Vegas. The offensive line wasn't going great already. So, all right. That might be addition by subtraction in their mind, but at the same time, that's a lot of experience on the field that you're not really replacing effectively. We'll get into that. Slot cornerback Mike Hilton walked. He is currently unsigned. Same with Von Bell. He had 62% of the snap count. Currently unsigned. Akeem Davis-Gunther, linebacker, walked. He's with Arizona. Sam Hubbard retired. The Cincinnati kid. Shout out. Defensive interior Sheldon Rankin signed with Houston. Defensive interior Jay Tufuli signed with the Jets. Now, you hear what we just said about the fact that their defense was that bad, and they're letting that much starting defensive talent walk out the door. When they
just let the bad get worse.
What are we doing? And they didn't meaningfully replace anything. No. They really didn't.
And the one that's gonna hit them the hardest is Alex Cappa. Granted, the offensive line for Cincinnati is abysmal. They're not protecting Joe Burrow at all. I'm surprised he's not seeing ghosts at this point. But when you have somebody that played dang near 100% of the snaps on your team, and you're not having a plan to replace it adequately, you might as well try to keep him. Instead, you let him go to Vegas.
Yeah.
Which means now you have another hole in the interior, and you're going to be playing teams that have defensive tackles that can pass rush.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hi, Ken Hayward. God. I don't understand it. Let's talk about the players that were retained right off the bat. The Jamar Chase extension needed to happen. Like, that's one of their best players. Do I think that it was the smartest move to try and keep Chase and T? Not necessarily, but they franchise tagged T. Higgins. That's going to be $28.75 million, all guaranteed. And it'll be interesting to see if he stays healthy, because he didn't last year. Jamar is their number one, which benefits T extremely. So it's never too much of a good thing, but there's too much money being spent at certain points. They retained BJ Hill on the defensive interior, band-aid on a broken arm. Interior O-line Cody Ford gets retained. That's just depth, truthfully, more than anything. Same with Joseph Asai, Mike Gesicki. That's decent tight end 2, in my opinion. Not a start, not like a star number 1. Zach Moss retained. Cool. All right. I'll take it.
I'm going to just give you basic math on this. They lost 6 players on their defense. They only signed 3. I'm sorry, you still got some holes there. And based on the way they've been treating pass rushers on their team, it don't look like you're going to fill those slots anytime soon. No. Because people talk.
And they only signed 5 free agents total. I had to put on a linebacker with a 1.5% snap count and a linebacker with a 14% snap count in the section we're about to talk about, which is free agent additions. That's because they didn't have enough over 20% for me to care about. I don't know how the Bengals have not been sold. Truthfully, I don't know how they haven't been sold. There is such clear mismanagement from the top down, because we all see the issues. The issues are quite obvious, and they quite regularly will do the opposite of what they need to do. Let's talk about the free agent additions. Lucas Patrick, interior offensive lineman. That ain't gonna fix shit. I'm sorry. It's just not. He had a good year last year. He was on the Saints offensive line. That's a great offensive line. Obviously, you're gonna do well. Look at what he did in Chicago. He was a turnstile. Defensive interior to Daryl Slanton. He's a run stopper, I guess. He's huge. That's it. He's gigantic. And he plugs up a bunch of the gaps. That's what he contributes. Then they got Oren Burks and Joe Giles Harris. I fucked that up. He doesn't play, so how am I supposed to know how to say his name?
Did you just skip over Samaje Perine?
Yeah, I'm too pissed because I like that. I like that signing, but I don't want to give Cincinnati any credit.
See, I don't like it.
You don't?
I don't. And here's the problem. Here's the reason why I don't like it. You signed Samaje Perine. Meanwhile, your ex of a running back. Let me go get some Houston Texans stats real quick while I say
what
this.
What did they pay Joe?
No, it's not about what they paid him. It's about the fact he put up 1,000 yards. Granted, same thing that your running back did. Cool. I feel like that would have still made a difference on your team in some way, shape, or form. But back to my point. You signed Samaje Perine when there was, in my opinion, an embarrassment of riches in the draft where you could go younger and get another back to complement what you already have in that backfield. Instead, you took Samaje Perine, whom I liked when he got drafted. He's a hard-nosed runner. He is very powerful. He will make you feel his presence when he is on the field. However, there's but so many hits a running back can take, especially when you are a physical power back. Absolutely. So I would have went younger. I would have tried to build this a little more. Unfortunately, they just didn't do it, and they didn't do a lot of things. That's like the overall point we're trying to make here.
Yeah. Let's go the last bit of player additions, the draft. It's insane to me that they thought a non-productive, traitsy pass rusher and then 2 linebackers was enough. They thought that'll fix our defense. Let me get into it. You got Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Thank God my Bears did not draft Shamar Stewart. I am so thrilled. But Cincinnati, I'm sorry, because I don't think that's going to go well. That dude had 4 sacks in his college career. What? Total? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Fucking ridiculous. Linebacker Demetrius Knight out of South Carolina. Offensive guard Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. I like it, but I don't love it because it's whatever. You needed to overhaul your defense entirely. You didn't do a damn thing about your secondary. Whatever. Linebacker Barrett Carter out of Clemson. Offensive guard Jalen Rivers out of Miami. Running back Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. No draft day trades. They had a trade with Chicago when they got Khalil Herbert, and we got their 7th rounder. So that was fun. It's an okay draft. It's not bad. I don't want to be up here and saying that this is like the worst draft of all time. I don't like the Shamar Stewart pick. I won't lie about that. But this is not like a horrible draft. It's just not the draft that the Bengals needed. And it's not necessarily the draft that I'm used to seeing from Cincinnati, where it's like, oh wow, they got a bunch of just great players at positions that they needed. This is like, you got some solid players at positions you kind of needed. What are your thoughts on the Bengals draft?
I thought it was mid, honest, if I'm just being 100% honest. And that's even looking at it as like a casual fan doesn't pay attention to Cincy. Shamar Stewart is a developmental pass rusher. He needed to go to a situation where he can learn and develop, because you're banking on upside. You're banking on the traits that he has, not necessarily the production. And he's going to be expected to start right now. But my main problem with it is there's already drama going on between the Bengals and Shamar Stewart involving his contract. Apparently there's language in there. They're trying to debate the signing bonus. It's basically Cincinnati cheapening out on yet another pass rusher. They're willing to splurge on wide receivers.
All day.
They're willing to splurge on their quarterback. But the people that are in charge of getting to the opposing quarterback, by which you have a Lamar Jackson in your division. I get the other 2 teams don't have quarterbacks, but the A1 quarterback in your division is in Baltimore. And the people that you are charged to get him, you don't want to pay any money to. You want to cheapen out his signing bonus. You don't want to pay Trey Hendrickson at all. You lost Sam Hubbard to retirement. I'm going to save it for the last part. I'm going to save it because I know you're going to ask me if they got better. So I'm just going to save it.
You notice how with the Browns, we did not say they got worse. For me, they stayed pretty neutral. But let's get into that later because we have to talk about the coaching changes. Listen, they fired a fair amount of people. Lou Anarumo, defensive coordinator, offensive line coach Frank Polak, defensive line coach Marion Hobby, linebacker coach James Betcher. Who they replaced them with? Defensive coordinator Al Golden, defensive assistant Sean Desai, defensive assistant Scott Peters, then D-line coach Jerry Montgomery, linebacker coach Mike Hodges. This was this is Zach Taylor's dying grasps at saving his job. Let's be honest. This much changeover was needed, but it's also very indicative of the fact that this is a guy who's floundering to try and save his job right now. I don't know if it's going to work. Joe Burrow's probably the only thing that could save his job. Whereas, when we were talking about Kevin Stefanski, there's nothing that can really save his job that I think he could hang his hat on. Zach Taylor at least has two of the best offensive players in the league that he can be like, that's helping at least, but I don't know. It's not uninspiring. It's just, it's not inspiring.
It's not going to save his job either. If he would have gotten a premier name for that defensive coordinator role, I'd probably give you a maybe. Because I'm like, okay, you're hiring somebody whose job is to potentially turn around this defense. You tell me the defense coordinator is Al Golden, and my first question is, who? That should tell you enough.
Yeah.
So, is it enough for him to save his job? Hell no.
No.
The fact that you need to get rid of this many coaches tells me that the problem is the head coach.
If everyone else is at fault, eventually there's only one person left to blame. There really is. Simple question. Did this team get better?
No. And in my opinion, they are the only team that has gotten worse after this offseason.
Yeah.
You lost so many pieces of your defense, and you did not do enough to actually replace it. You did not shore up that defensive line. You definitely did not shore up any level of that front seven. Your pass rushers that you currently have left are fighting you over money because you're too stingy to actually open up the wallet, unless, of course, it's somebody that can catch a pass rather than hitting a pass rusher or hitting a quarterback. So,
no, they didn't.
Skyline Chili ain't saving you either.
They're the one of the very few that legitimately got worse. I'm like, wow, this is going to be... If we thought 2024 was Joe Burrow putting the Bengals on his back, 2025 is going to be even more so because they are going to need to score 35, 40 points a game to win regularly, and that's not sustainable. We've seen that that's not sustainable, and I feel badly for Joe Burrow. Let's talk about some more mediocrity. The Steelers, 10-7. Hey, another winning season, Mike. Good job, Tomlin. They ended up in second place, got smacked around a little bit in the playoffs, and nobody was surprised by it. Getting right into the 2024 reaction. I think that it was such a weird year because it felt at first like they were punting on the year. And then when they realized that they were still the Steelers, they're like, okay, we'll get ready for a play. It felt like just this half-hearted, even for Pittsburgh, I was like, damn. Normally there's at least some level of there'll be, a tough outing for somebody in the playoffs. They won't go far, but there'll be a tough outing for somebody in the playoffs. Now it's like, They're a joke. Yeah, they can scrape out some cheap-ass wins, but they're a joke. Give me your thoughts on the 2024 Steelers.
If you could somehow combine the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers,
oh my God,
then you'd have a team that can compete.
You mean the Eagles?
Basically.
So what you're describing is the Eagles.
Basically. Look, the Steelers have the reverse problem of the Bengals. While the Bengals can drop 40 on your head while at the same time give up 42 by their defense, the Pittsburgh Steelers can give up only 3 points in a game because of their defense, but their offense can't put up anything. And that was the problem in 2024. They didn't have a good grasp on the quarterback situation. We were going back and forth all year, like, is it going to be Russell Wilson? Is it going to be Justin Fields? It turns out it was going to be both. They basically did a college 2-quarterback kind of system in there. Their defense basically dragged them into the playoffs, only to get their butts kicked. And the problem I have here, and I'm starting to develop it because I have all the respect in the world for Mike Tomlin, but it's really like we're accepting this as a mediocrity. This is like the joke of the NFL, where we talk so much about Tomlin's ability to not have a losing season while he's been in Pittsburgh, but he's also not done enough to get them over that hump of the first round of the playoffs since they won that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's doing the same thing over and over again.
It's insanity is what it is. That's the definition. I don't even know if that's the actual definition. I've been told that my whole life.
Yes,
blindly accepted it.
No. The literal definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Now, I will say they're trying things different the next year. Holy shit, there was a lot of movement on the free agency and trades. So let's get right into it. Dan Moore, offensive tackle. He is now in Tennessee. Dante Jackson, cornerback, is with the Chargers. Respectively, that is 98.6% of your pass of your snap count and 71.4% of your snap count. Then the George Pickens trade to the Cowboys. And the final tally ends up being George Pickens and a 2027 sixth rounder for next year's third round pick, and then a 2027 fifth round pick from Dallas. He was a second round receiver. You're getting back a third and you're moving a sixth up to a fifth. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of a wash to me in the end. You're moving up and getting a third out of a second round player. Okay, whatever. The other part of it is the rest of the losses, because there's a lot, so I have to plow through this. Wide receiver Van Jefferson signed with Tennessee. Quarterback Russell Wilson signed with your Giants. Running back Najee Harris is also with the Chargers. Defensive interior Larry Ogunjobi signed with Buffalo. Linebacker Elandon Roberts is with Vegas. Mike Williams, wide receiver, ended up with the Chargers. Edge Preston Smith, unsigned, 43% of their snap count. Quarterback Justin Fields ended up with the other New York team, the Jets. You got DeMonte Kazi, 26.5% of their snap count at safety, ended up with Cleveland. Then you've got kind of a backup tight end, McCole Pruitt, unsigned still, backup, depth piece at this point. I hate to say it about Cam Sutton, but it's true. Cornerback, 23.4% of the snap count remains unsigned. That's a lot of losses. I only considered 20% or higher snap count, and they had a lot of people leaving. They tried their best to supplement that with retaining a couple players and a fair amount of free agent signings. There is one looming free agent signing that we're still waiting for. And at this point, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Steeler, because it should have happened by now.
I doubt it. At this point, it's been too long. I understood waiting until after the draft. It has already come and gone. We're already in OTAs. Minicamp is around the corner. He still hasn't been signed. And I'm worried about it. But you know what? I'm not as worried about the quarterback situation, even though I am going to fight what you said on one point in just a second. I'm more concerned with the wide receiver room over there, because it's basically DK Metcalf, Robert Woods, and that's it. That's it. And Scotty Miller, the legend from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay. Here's the part where I'm going to fight you on this. You said they did something different because of all the people that got let go, all the people they signed, all the moves they made. It's the same thing they always do. And I'm going to tell you why. They get rid of a crash out wide receiver, trade him for peanuts. They do that every time when they either don't want to pay somebody or it's too much of a distraction to the team. And they don't address the quarterback situation. It's the same thing the Pittsburgh Steelers do every single
time. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
And that's why we're in the same place with them.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about some of the additions. Because we talked about the crash out receiver getting swapped out for somebody else. DK Metcalf got traded from the Seattle Seahawks. They sent pick 185 as well. The Steelers sent pick 52 and 223. The Steelers signed defensive interior Daniel Ekuale from New England, 64.6% snap count out of him. Quarterback Mason Rudolph's coming on back from Tennessee. Might need him. The cornerback Brandon Eccles from the Jets. Malik Harrison from Baltimore coming over at the linebacker position. Robert Woods, we had already talked about, coming over from Houston. They also got Kenneth Gainwell as a free agent from Philadelphia at the running back position, as well as Trace Sermon from Indianapolis. Not too bad for running back depth there, especially when they're losing Najee Harris. They need to have some kind of depth addition to supplement that. They are able to retain Jaylen Warren and Isaiah Loudermilk. The Jaylen Warren one I like quite a bit because it's that's a fun player, and you have Gainwell, you have Trace Sermon to take the load off a little bit, so he's not having to increase his load, as it were. Pause. Give me your thoughts on the free agency before we get into their draft.
All right, me selfishly, I love the Kenneth Gainwell signing because I am so tired of seeing him with Philadelphia. Like, I've had to see pretty much that trio of running backs that they had in Philadelphia torch my Giants.
You know that there's that random Kenneth Gainwell legacy game, and there's a very real chance it happens against the Giants.
No, that's not even it. That's not the one. It's Boston Scott. That's the one that we wanted to get rid of.
Boston Scott, remember him?
Boston Scott. The one that they keep calling the Giants Slayer. But we're getting back into Pittsburgh. Everybody's going to talk about the DK Metcalf trade. Everybody. We've seen how things ended with him in Seattle. He goes over to Pittsburgh. He's on the no-nonsense team. People think that that's going to work. Nobody's throwing the ball to him. And the reason why DK Metcalf gets the reputation that he has is because he's a very talented receiver. And if you don't feed him, like all top receivers, they're going to feel away. Like,
receivers are divas. We know this.
Yes, Malik Neighbors even confirmed that.
Thank God. When he said that, I was like, thank God. Somebody had to say it. A wide receiver had to say it.
But he is a volume target kind of receiver. Like, you need to give him 7 to 10 touches a game.
You got to get him early. Otherwise, it's pouting.
And when he's pouting, your offense is stuck. Running game, they're going to be fine in. Pass game, just because of the quarterback, I'm iffy on.
Running game's fun. We'll get into why in just a second here, because we're going to talk about their draft class. Everyone thought that the 21st pick was probably going to be Shedeur Sanders. No, it was not. It was defensive tackle Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Kind of like the pick, truthfully. There were a bunch of Steelers fans that were giving that pick a bunch of crap, and I'm like, why? You lost Larry Ogunjobi. Cam Hayward ain't going to be around forever. You need to have some depth there, and Derek Harmon's a good player. I like that. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Holy shit, do I like that pick quite a bit. Especially paired with, Jalen Warren and the Kenneth Gainwell and Trey Sermon signings. That's a really just solid running back room that you can lean on, and that's what Pittsburgh does. So, like you said, the run game, I don't have any problems with. It's the pass game, because their 6th round pick was not gonna be he's not gonna be the solution there. Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, that's just that's a culture signing. That's a cultured pick, because that guy is like so Pittsburgh Steelers football, it hurts. So that just makes too much sense. Another defensive tackle, Yahya Black out of Iowa. Then you got quarterback Will Howard out of Ohio State. That's a backup. I'm sorry. That's a backup at best. And they need to fucking figure out the quarterback situation. We've talked about it too much. Linebacker Carson Bruner in the 7th round out of Washington. Then 7th round cornerback Dante Kent out of Central Michigan. I think they did a really good job with, number one, addressing the Larry Ogunjobi loss. I think that they did solid with bolstering the run game and, just getting a bunch of fucking defense for an already defensive heavy and defensively good team. It's good on top of good, with the offense just kind of sitting there like, hey, who's throwing? Give me your thoughts on this draft.
Well, here's the thing. I love the Derek Harmon trade. Like, Cam Hayward is not getting any younger. He gets to learn. He gets to teach Derek Harmon the ways to be a
That's the other thing.
Plug up that defensive line for the next decade. But I'm not done talking about the quarterbacks. Let's be honest. That's what we're going to talk about.
That's what we're here for.
When they picked in the 1st round, there was talks that it was going to be Shedeur Sanders. I was hearing rumors that it was going to be Jackson Dart. And we just thought it was going to be a quarterback, period. Turns out they went defense, which is what Pittsburgh does. Look at their entire draft class. They do this every year. They shore up their defense. They make sure their defense stays as a top 10, top 5, top 3 defense, and don't help their offense in the pass game at all, especially their quarterback position. Will Howard, congratulations. You are now the latest member of a list of quarterbacks that have been on this team ever since Ben Roethlisberger retired. You officially joined the likes of Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, anyone else? Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Yeah,
congratulations, Pittsburgh. You are now the 2nd worst teams when it comes to quarterbacks.
Who's first?
Cleveland.
Thank you.
The two teams for a quarterback are in the same division. I'm sorry, Caleb Williams. You may not have wanted to be in Chicago according to this book, but that could have been way worse.
That book is going to take years off of my life, especially if he doesn't play out of his mind next year. Like, if he doesn't throw 35 touchdowns and throw for 4,000 yards, oh no. Oh, I'm stressed. I'm like, after that report came out, I'm so fucking stressed. Back to the Steelers, though. Let's talk coaching changes. Then let's ask the big question. fired their DB coach, fired their inside linebacker coach. Grady Brown, Aaron Curry, both gone. They brought in Gerald Alexander to be the DB coach. They brought in Scott McCurley to be the inside linebackers coach. I mean, they promoted. It's the Steelers. That's how they do it. So, yeah, not a whole lot of big changes, and they are probably the epitome of promotion from within when it comes to coaching changes. Not really a whole lot to talk about there. If you want to get right to the question.
Yeah, I'll get right to the question. I'll give you right the answer. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the best team to work for because you're guaranteed to get promoted from within. But did they get better? No. I put them in the same boat as Cleveland. They pretty much stayed the same. You already know we're going to go into the season. The defense is going to do its thing. It's going to drag the offense to a couple of wins. And it's just up to the offense to not turn into the Cleveland Browns and, actually put some points, maybe 14, maybe 20 if you're lucky.
Whoa.
If you're lucky.
That's a lot.
The kicker's going to get most of it. Just at least get to the 40-yard line.
No, as soon as you start, I was like, 14 points. That's not a multiple of 3. What are we doing here? That's not Steelers football. I agree with you. I don't think they got worse. I want to emphasize that they're not the Bengals, but they didn't necessarily dramatically improve, in my opinion. I think
they got younger.
They addressed what they lost. And they still don't have a quarterback. I didn't think they had a quarterback going into the year last year. So, not a whole lot of difference. One last team to talk about. The Baltimore Ravens. They ended up at 12-5. They can't get done in the playoffs against those AFC monsters that we're so used to. But I digress. The Ravens, I think that they had a lot of things that went really right. They had some things fall off the rails, especially defensively. I feel like at a point they missed Mike McDonald because I miss Mike McDonald. It was such a fun time. But I digress. Let's talk about 2024, how it went for the Ravens. They had a good season. Like Derrick Henry, my God, what a great addition that was, clearly. And I think it's only going to get better and better as they've added even more offensive star power, as it were, for Lamar Jackson to have fun with. Before we get into what they changed, let's talk about what had happened. What were your thoughts on 2024 Ravens?
I will never forgive them. They were 3 toes away from the Buffalo Bills getting home field advantage in the playoffs. 3 toes away. And I almost said my Buffalo Bills because I keep saying the Buffalo Bills are New York's best chance of getting a Super Bowl.
Claim them then. Get yourself going.
No. My girlfriend is dying for me to become a bandwagon fan of any other team but the Giants. But you know what? I'm trying to show her that I'm committed.
It's like, no, look, I'm faithful, see?
Like, I've been in pain since like 2012. Anyways, they had a successful season, but the problem is, and this is a reoccurring theme for the entire division, they're not living up to expectation. Lamar Jackson should be, while he is in MVP conversations every year, he should be in Super Bowl conversations. He should be where Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes is when it comes to constantly being in that AFC Championship picture. It just never seems to work out fully like that. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because he is arguably the most talented quarterback because of his ability to both throw and run. He is on a very successful team that can run the ball, throw the ball. Their defense will knock you in the mouth a couple of times. They just can't click during the playoffs. And that's the problem, because that window is slowly closing. We all know that. It's coming.
No doubt about it. Let's talk about the free agency and any of the trades that had happened. There weren't any trades. I'm not getting into it. There were trades. They involved a bunch of comp picks and 3 different teams, and it made my brain hurt. All you need to know is the Ravens ended up with 5 sixth-round picks. Let's talk about the free agents, though. Let's get into who they lost. Cornerback Brandon Stephens, 92% of the snaps at corner, which I was like, that's a lot. Signed with the Jets. Obviously, Patrick McCarry on the offensive line ended up in Jacksonville. Deontay Johnson goes to Cleveland. We talked about that earlier. Nelson Aguilar, we talked about him earlier, unsigned, and I think it ought to stay that way. Tre'Davious White ends up in Buffalo at the cornerback position. Malik Harrison, we talked about how he went to Pittsburgh. Other than 2 starters that they lost between Brandon Stephens and Patrick McCarry, not really hurting terribly.
No, you also got rid of a crash out of a wide receiver in Deontay Johnson.
No.
You saved yourself millions in therapy.
Yeah. It's not a good time. Let's talk about who they kept, because this is huge for me. Ronnie Staley getting re-signed at offensive tackle. They needed to make that happen. That is a anchor for their offense. $20 million a year on average that he's getting. Safety Ardarius Washington gets re-signed. Kind of a depth piece there. The rest of these are depth pieces for, Tylan Wallace at wide receiver. They re-signed their fullback, though, at $2.87 million a year. Keep fullback alive. I love that stuff. Now let's talk about who they added. This is the nice part about the Ravens. I can just blow right through this because there wasn't a whole lot. They added DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver, which I love, free agent out of Kansas City. Chidobe Awuzie out of Tennessee at corner, kind of replaced that loss with Brandon Stephens. Cooper Rush gets brought in as the backup to Lamar, and then you got Joseph Noteboom coming in as a free agent from the Rams, kind of a nice 6th offensive lineman, if you will. They didn't lose a lot, and what they did lose, they replaced very effectively, I might add. What are your thoughts on the free agent movement here?
I'm going to tell you, and I hate to admit it, the most underrated signing out of this is Cooper Rush. Because, listen to this. I'm a Giants fan. I have to watch the Cowboys plenty. I have seen Cooper Rush come in for Dak Prescott on numerous times due to Dak's injuries where he would miss significant time. And Cooper Rush runs that offense like nothing changed, as if he was a starter. So he, arguably, in my personal opinion, is probably the best backup quarterback in the NFL right now.
Ooh, interesting.
And that's coming from a Giants fan. Because he comes in...
you don't know who your backup is. As the Giants fan over there. So
first of all, Jameis is our 2nd string. Jackson Dart's our 3rd string. Tommy DeVito's going to the practice squad and will likely get signed somewhere else. Boom, done. I already know that's going to happen. Back to this.
Do you?
Yes. Cooper Rush is not the backup quarterback that'll get you 1 or 2 spot starts. Maybe he'll split one of those. No, he can come in once he learns your offense and run it. Now, don't do the RPOs and all of that stuff. Don't do the read options. But if you have him under center and you just have him in shotgun and actually in the pocket, he'll get you through a stretch of games if something happens to Lamar Jackson. Lamar has an ankle sprain, anything like that, he has to miss 3-4 weeks. You'll be fine.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it quite a bit. For me, I think my favorite signing, and I already said it, was retaining Ronnie Staley. I think that was huge. I think that keeping that piece on the offensive line is my favorite out of That's my favorite free agency move in this division for this offseason. I'll put it that way. Let's talk about the draft class. I'm going to tear through this because they picked so many fucking players. Round 1, Malachi Stark, safety out of Georgia. We talked about this during our draft reactions, how awesome that pick is. Justin, I know you're a huge fan of that. Mike Green out of Marshall. They're okay with the baggage, so we'll see. Offensive tackle Emory Jones Jr. out of LSU. Love that pick quite a bit. Then you got linebacker Teddy Buchanan out of Cal. Offensive tackle Carson Vincent out of Alabama A&M. Now I am at the bevy of 6th round picks. The next 5 are all 6th round picks. Cornerback Bilal Cohn, Western Michigan. Kicker Tyler Loop, Arizona. Wide receiver LeJontay Wester, Colorado. I put a DR. That's not what I meant to write. I think that needs DT. Anais Peebles, Virginia Tech. All-time name. Love that name. That's fantastic. Cornerback Robert Longerbeam out of Rutgers. There's your sixth rounders. Then to round it out in the 7th, offensive guard Garrett Dellinger out of LSU. They got a whole bunch of depth and took a bunch of dart throws. They didn't really have to draft for need in a lot of places, which is what we had talked about with the Malachi Starks pick being so awesome because it is that amazing compliment to Kyle Hamilton. But they're at a point with their roster where they can be doing these types of drafts where they're just taking, dart throws and best available and players that will fit their type of play style, or players that can be, next man up, learning behind a great veteran, and then be ready when their, number gets called. Give me your thoughts on the Ravens draft class.
I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. At least, outside of Malachi Starks and outside of Mike Green, there's going to be a very productive starter out of one of these other picks. It's just what the Ravens do. They draft all these players that you don't know much about, and they develop talent in such a way where one of them pops out. I'm not saying they're going to be a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro, but I am going to say they're going to be a very serviceable starter.
There you go.
And then they'll make some money. Mike Green, I don't know. They're taking a chance. There's a whole bunch of off-the-field issues that have been concerns. That's why he slipped out of the first round. They're taking a chance on that because of the talent. Also because of another reason for why he slipped is he played in Marshall. Marshall's not known for having the best competition. No. So how is he going to make the jump from that level to the NFL? Malachi Starks,
he went from the SEC where he had decent production to Marshall where great production. And it's like, okay. All right.
Malachi Starks is going to be a day one starter, I think, in that defensive backfield.
Ridiculous.
Tyler Loop is another day one starter because, there's a opening in the kicker role. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to say what happened or who did it, but just know he has the same first name as me.
God, no. Oh, yikes.
But there's at least 2 starters in there, 3 starters there day one, and then possibly going to be another one with the depth pieces that they drafted.
There you go. I like it. I like it quite a bit. And it seems, and like you said, it seems like this is what the Ravens will consistently do. They know drafting. They know late round drafting, especially because it's always feeling like, the Ravens stars that'll come out will be like, oh, they were drafted in such and such a round, or Mark Andrews being the 2nd round, or this, that, and the other, all that beautifulness.
Badamuke being a 3rd rounder.
Exactly. Let's do it. Wrap it up. We are so close to getting out of here. Coaching changes. They let go their assistant head coach and pass game coordinator Chris Hewitt, as well as Mark DeLeon as the interior linebackers coach. They replaced him with Tyler Santucci, and they brought in Chuck Pagano as their senior secondary coach. which is a fun, experienced coach with head coaching experience, being in the room for the defense, which you can't go wrong with. Not really a lot to talk about with the change here. There wasn't, I don't think there was much that needed changing other than, linebacking, which was carried by Roquan Smith, as it always is wherever he goes.
Yeah.
I miss you. But yeah, there wasn't a terrible amount other than the Chris Hewitt being let go. With that, I'm like, okay, he was there for like, I think 10 years. He was with the Ravens for a while. So that was kind of like, oh wow, that's interesting that happened. But they're needing some change, I guess. They're tired of having a great regular season followed up by fizzling out in the playoffs. Justin, what do you think about any of the coaching staff changes? Not really much.
I think I wouldn't even have noticed.
No, I had to dig for them.
Like, I would not have even noticed. The shout out to Chuck Pagano still getting NFL work.
Right? Like, what a guy. He just loves ball. Let's get out of here. But before we do, did this team get better?
Yes.
We got one.
They got deeper, and they basically solidified that, barring injury or barring some crazy madness, they will once again run away with the division.
No, I absolutely agree. And I agree that they got better. Not only that they'll run away with the division, but they got better. Extending Derrick Henry, we didn't really talk about it, but that was, a great decision to make because that offense was fantastic running through him. And I think that they just, like you said, they just got even better with their depth. They addressed all of the, areas that they lost players at, either equivalent or better. And they got some really great complementary pieces for what they already had. So yes, the Ravens got better. Yes, they are going to continue to be running the AFC North. Sorry to the Steelers, sorry to the Bengals. There ain't no Cinderella story in your future because the Ravens are just too dang good. That's all we got for the AFC North on that one. I think that that'll cover it. We're not going to talk about these teams again until August. Sorry about it. If you like any of them, we're done.
And if you like 3 out of the 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's rough. If you like the Browns, first of all, that's your fault. If you like the Bengals, I get it. 2021 was cool and that was a fun time. So you've been a fan for the last 3 years. So, strap in. It's going to get interesting. If you're a fan of the Steelers, bless you.
If you are in the state of Ohio, call a friend. Have a trusted person.
Reach out. It's okay.
Between the 2 football teams and the way that your Cleveland Cavaliers performed in NBA playoffs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Pacers are going to win it all. That's all I have to say about that.
Excuse me?
Pacers are going to win it all. I love the Knicks. I'm
New York
sorry.
Is not going
but did
to
you
exist.
see what the Pacers just did to the Cavs? No one's beating that team.
I'm going to remind you of this. And you know what? We can cut this part and then do the outro and all of that. I'm going to remind you of something. The Pacers had to take 7 games to beat the Knicks, who were down pretty much all of their starters.
Whatever. I still think
so. When people start climbing Times Square because they beat the Pacers and are going on to the NBA Finals for the first time since God knows when. I think 76 was the last time they won it.
Well, it's like if it ain't the Pacers, I really do hope it's the Knicks. But that's all the time we have for the off-season previews for AFC North. We're going to keep this going. Next week is going to be NFC North. We're going never eat soggy waffles. That order: north, east, south, west. conference by conference, starting with the AFC, switching to the NFC. So you don't want to miss next week because I get to talk about my Chicago Bears. And yeah, I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. And hopefully I get more information about this book.
Some more.
Hopefully I get more information about this book in the next week. Oh my gosh. Until the next time, that's Justin. This is Kyle. This is the Gridiron, and it has been great hanging out with y'all, chatting about sports. Make sure that you're following on all platforms. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us out so much. Until the next time, peace.